Hi, I'm Angela Coulter, and I'm here to talk about some stuff that's going on energetically and metaphysically over the past several weeks and coming into March, now that we're in the second week of March. But my guidance has been to put this up here because there's so much confusion going on right now. And there's so much friction going on within ourselves. And I see a lot of things out there that are really very well spoken and written on what's going on. And so, excuse me, here we go with the spiritual energy. So, my guidance is simply to talk about how I've been able to perceive it from my perspective. So, about I don't know, not too long ago, I have no concept of time anymore. So, I think probably about a month ago, we went through maybe a little longer, sometime in the past several months. Let's just say that we went through a period of we had to make a collective agreement, a collective decision um, that we agreed upon. And so there was about a week of all of this. I don't know whether I'm here, excuse me, whether it's time for me to go. Many I talked to, many I worked with, many of my clients, many of my students, all had the same kind of perception and feeling of, including myself, of is it time to go? And sort of feel like I'm done, right? And so there was all this friction that went on inside. And so the understanding that has developed is that we made a collective decision. Those of us who are here, and especially those who are even more active in the evolution, actually all of us are, but if we're here, we basically were part of the experiment group that came here to run the show. Excuse me. All of us. And we have done this many different ways, many different times. We've cycled around, we've come back to remembrance, and then we've crashed again. And we are, we've done several things multiple times in multiple ways, but often in the same pattern. So my understanding is that we're at this point of doing it differently, and so we can move on to this next world, the level up, the next generation. It's not funny. The next Earth, or the next version of this existence, not just Earth, because this is going on across the universe. But specifically, we have a lot of key things going on in Earth here. So I'm focusing right now. I'm focusing on discussion about Earth and those of us who are here. So we had to agree. Oh wow, here are all these yawns. We had to agree on how we were going to orchestrate the next phase. And so there was a lot that went on, and I can talk about that for a long time, but there were perceptions of, okay, do we all stay here, work on this here? Do some of us go? Do we stay and go? Right? Because we are technically in all these places, whether you want to call it, you know what, we're already in the fifth dimension, or whatever dimension you want to call it. We're in the 10th dimension. We're everywhere. It's just a matter of how we split when we look in the perspective of the oneness. And so we made this agreement to say, we've done the both. That's the ages of the gods and goddesses in different time periods, to my understanding. And we fell from the ego there, we fell from the ego there, so let's do this differently. So we've all set ourselves up to move forward into the next phase, right? Now, I'm not going to go into detail about what that agreement was, because it just gets the mind caught up in other stuff. Anyway, because what's important for me to share is that my understanding is the phase we're in now, like we're in end phases, right? Excuse me again. Wow. We're in end phases, and these are faster, more intense, more accelerated phases of development and remembrance, coming back to our divine self. And part of the game on Earth is to fully realize our ultimate soul's purpose. Fully realize it. No more humming and hawing. No more, putting it off, procrastinating, feeling uncomfortable about it because of all the ego's issues and stuff like that. Because what's happened is this: we have awakened to the remembrance of, oh wait, I can and want to attain my soul's purpose, and because I know that's what's going to bring me bliss back to my divine self. And then we've been working through all of the egoic stuff and releasing and recreating reality to say, I am worthy of that. I am worthy of having these huge, amazing, humongous shoes that are better than any Gucci you can get out there. Or whatever. But these huge shoes to step into and realize and remember, because I have it all within me, right? And it's time to do that while I'm here, and it's time for me to really enjoy it. And really enjoy the game finally. We do enjoy the game, but we have done so much to, we believe here in the 3D when we forget the higher consciousness that, there's pain and suffering, all that kind of stuff, that we don't actually enjoy all of that from the higher perspective, because it's that experience of separation that we created that is so unique, in my understanding here. So what I'm talking about here now is, so we're feeling this energy of, okay, so now the higher self says, now it's time. It is time for us to step fully into our ultimate soul's purpose. It is time for us to do that right now. And so the understanding from the bigger perspective is that to get through this phase, we all are to step into our ultimate soul's purposes, all of us who are here, whatever that is, whatever that looks like. And when we get to that ultimate soul's purpose, when we hit that apex, that is when we go into the next phase. And in the next phase, many of us will be transitioning, or we will be going to, there's context that we don't have yet, so it's hard for me to explain. We don't really have words. And my understanding is some of us will just pop out of existence. Some of us will just transition out. There's many who are already doing that. Some will stay to help those who are not yet stepping into their full, attain their soul, full self, their full realization of their full divine self and their ultimate soul's purpose. And then there are some who are going to be, what I'm understanding, is in-betweeners that go between the two, the old world, the new world, to help release the partitions between them so that we fully come back together into this whole next world and release and change and let go of all of this let me just turn off my phone. The other world, the older 3D version. So this is a huge level up for us. It's a huge experience, and it is so fun and amazing and love-based. However, what is behind the friction that's going on for many is that, number one, there is a high percentage that when we hit that apex that we will be leaving in one way or the other, right? Whether we leave or stay, number one, my understanding is whether we leave or stay has no reflection on whether you're done or not. Because when we hit the ultimate soul's purpose, you actually know what your purpose is in being in the orchestra symphony. You remember consciously what it is, the part that you're here to play. So whether you stay here to help others, move on to help the new world, be in between or whatever, and there might be others, who knows? Probably is. We don't just do anything in just simple fashion. We do it to the extreme. When we remember that, though, there's this ego. The ego is going, but wait, I'm just mastering this game. And I don't know if I'm ready for this. I'm starting to like this. So many are getting to a place of like 90% realization or 80% realization, and all of a sudden they feel like this, like their hands are out, like, oh my gosh, I got to stop. And so they're saying to me, I am holding myself back. I'm sabotaging myself. I am preventing myself from moving into this next phase for whatever purpose. And I have cleared all of this stuff. I've changed all of this stuff. And yet this wall is still coming up for me. And that is, my guidance has been that it is because there's this fear and sadness. When it came up for me originally, it was this soul level sadness that was so huge of leaving. And part of it was that when we get there in this way, when we get to our ultimate, really realizing that full ultimate soul's purpose in the full absolute capacity that we planned it, that, you know, when we move on, it's done. We're done doing this. And I know very clearly that it is my time, my last time, sorry, as human in this form, in this way. And so the sadness that was coming up was, when I decide to go, it is time to go and I won't come back. And there's this deep sadness about that, not from being separated, because I'm not separated from any of my family, because we're all together at other levels of consciousness anyway. It makes no difference. There's nothing, no fears about death, and or even just transition or popping out or popping back in and popping out. And I've seen myself do that. So I'm sort of thinking maybe I might be an in-betweener, but who knows? Because part of the game, my understanding is that we don't fully remember until we're there. Anyhow, but the sadness was that this is the last time for me. And I understand that as we move into this phase, it is the realization and recognition that many of us are pretty much done here in this form, in this way, in this 3D after this experience. And it's sort of like, you know, knowing that you have, say, 3 weeks to live. And so you start to savor the sweetness of everything, even the pain, even what you see around you in separation and darkness. Because when it's gone, you know, like, we've really loved this existence, regardless of what people think. Like here, because thinking comes from the ego, and here, this level of consciousness. It reminds me of the movie Pirates of the Caribbean, the first one. And the pirate Barbossa, who was like, he was in eternal form, and he wanted to become a human again, right? Because his biggest thing was he missed apples. And he talked about how because that was their whole quest, was to get this, whatever, I can't even remember, the coin or something, to get themselves back to being human. And he said, because all I want to do is eat an apple. I want to feel that, I want to taste it, and have that luxury of the tactile feeling of it, you know. And so it's funny, because it keeps on coming back to me that when he talks about that. And I think later on, when he does become human again, you do see him with an apple in his hand, like every time you see him, pretty much. So there's a part of us that is sad if we know we're going to be leaving for the last time, because there's no more coming back, right? And we've come back so many times, some of us, many of us, and we're like, wow, this is such a habit, it's almost an addiction. So part of what we're working through is releasing the sadness, because, by the way, it's going to be even better. It is even better. But this is a game we really like to play. So when we're giving up the game for a new game, we're writing a new game, we're creating a new game board, new world, next part of the evolution of the existence and the experiment, and that interrelates with all of this stuff throughout the universe. So there's all this friction coming up with those. And, you know, it's funny, as I was speaking with somebody in a session last week, who, she just keeps on saying, I want to go, I don't even like it here. And when I started telling her this, these tears came up from really deep. I mean, just tears. And she's like, I don't want to leave. I'm not ready. And I said, well, you just said you want to go, you don't want to be here. Right, until the realization of, wait, I'm not coming back. Like, this playground is closing. This is the last time we're playing on the playground for many of us, in this particular part of the playground. So that's part of, so when we have that, and then there's a resistance to that because of the sadness that's underlying that understanding, then we resist getting to that point, because we're like, okay, well, all right, I'm going to distract myself here. I'm going to limit myself here. I'm going to sabotage myself here just a little bit. Like, I'm going to get 90% or 85%, and then that's as far as I need to go right now. So that causes one level of friction. And then the next level is the higher self says, no more. It is time for us to really move forward and step into our truth in 100% divine remembrance. And our ultimate soul's purpose, because the symphony is playing, we are well tuned, we have started the symphony, now we're getting to the apex, and that is the most beautiful, amazing part. So the higher self knows this, and so we feel these conflicting emotions inside of us, and we're not even fully conscious as to why, in many cases, of happiness, excitement, anticipation. And then we do things like sabotage ourselves, or we stop ourselves, or we only go a certain amount, or we only allow so much. We only allow ourselves to go so much into something. So there's a lot of friction going on. And a lot of times we throw our hands up and say, well, I can't go further because this. I've just done everything and I just can't do this. So I'm just going to play victim to this and say I can't do anything more. And that's in everybody's reality in a very individual way. So there's no one way that shows up, because I keep on seeing it in very different ways, and it's always the same thing. So something for you to consider. It's something, and so here's the thing. So the higher self is just pushing us along. Not only pushing us, but if we really, really dig our heels in, the higher self is just going to kick us in the butt. No time on the earth plane. No time in the timeline. So this is how it's, and then the thing is, the more we try to avoid it, stepping into our ultimate soul purpose and evolving back to our state of enlightenment and to that state of remembrance, the more we deny it, the more we try to stop it, the harder and the bigger the pressure builds up for some kind of explosion. So again, we don't want to create something in the collective, like some kind of mass thing. And I don't watch news much, but I know there's a lot going on around the world it's a lot of friction. It's causing a lot of separation, energy, and darkness, and anger, and all that kind of stuff that's holding us back. It's distracting us. It's a distraction. So the way for us to resolve that is to look inside of ourselves and to start releasing what's holding us back within ourselves so that we can allow ourselves to move forward. Because when we acknowledge that within ourselves, when we say to the higher self, okay, all right, I've loved this place, I've loved this game, now let's move on to the next awesome playground, then we can flow forward much more easily, not only individually, but then in communities, in cultures around the world, collectively, because that's all related. So what I want to do before I close up this video is let's do a little clearing to help everyone here. And really the clearing is setting ourselves in a new reality, in a new space, in the vibration of this space, so that that's all that can exist, and all the other stuff just falls away. So we're going to set ourselves in the vibration of I fully embrace and stand in my divine truth, my divine power, my full ultimate soul's purpose, with acceptance, embracing it with full grace, ease, and effortless flow. Well, that's powerful than just saying that. And so what we'll do is, in that statement, we're going to do whatever needs to be done outside of space and time, whenever you're watching this, so that we can hold that, live and exist fully in that vibration and manifest from that vibration of that statement. Absolutely and completely from a state of unconditional love with full grace, ease, and effortless flow. So just close your eyes, take a couple deep breaths, and I'll tell you when we're done. Okay. Oof, way out there. So thank you for joining me. And as you move forward into this month, into this year, we have so much change going on. Do what it is, whether it's energy work or communication work, and if you need assistance, you can reach me through these websites that are on the bottom of the screen, and I'd be glad to help you and help to teach you how to do this for yourself so that you can, more easily shift with this grace and ease and effortless flow. So you don't have to depend on somebody else to do it for you, and that you can really we can all ultimately realize our divine truth. So thank you. Have a great one. Love you all. Bye.